Hello team and welcome to Entrepreneurs Conversations. Now, we have got something new on this particular episode where I have Mark Creaser with me and we are going to ask questions from the shiny goblet, the goblet of entrepreneur questions. And we'll see how that's going to go and see if we can get some answers to some quite difficult questions and we'll try it out. Between the two of us, you're the one that can do reading and writing because you stayed in school longer than me. So forget the first one. Have a rummage in the goblet. Oh, the tension. Let's have a look.
How do you balance short-term survival with long-term vision in your business decisions? And you're thinking about your business
Daily.
Every day.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it is what happens as entrepreneurs. We sort of do it. If we took the steady long-term focus on everything, we would never do anything. We would actually never do. We would never lift our, onto launch. Well, what would you say? How would you summarise that then?
Well, for lots of businesses, short-term is cash flow. It's getting some revenue in, it's making some sales. If you're not sustainable, there is no long term.
No.
So you need to be thinking about that month and that quarter in order to allow there to be a long term in your business. But lots of businesses don't juggle both very well. They don't juggle the short term profitability and they don't have that long term vision that they're building towards.
But I think that's whether you've got a hunting mentality or a farming mentality, because if we're hunting for stuff, we're trying to snatch and grab and bring stuff to us quickly and hurrying up to move forward and get going, as opposed to doing long-term stuff. Whether it be making content here with us today, but we're doing long-term strategy, owning the building to have a more secure future. So I think that's kind of, does that answer that question? Is that kind of what they're asking for?
I mean, you can interpret it however you like.
Yeah.
It's your show. Right? Yeah.
So, what is the next question?
Then I'll go have a rummage, shall I? Or do you want a rummage and then pass it to me?
Yeah, I'll have a rummage. Far away. You can have the dyslexic reading of this, but no one would understand what the question was. We'll go for the proper grown-up one.
Will AI impact your business? What businesses do you think are in danger?
Well, it's two questions. I mean, yes is the answer to the first question. Of course, it will impact all of our businesses. Doesn't matter what you're in. It will impact our private lives. It is already impacting our private life. It is already impacting our businesses. Yes. What businesses? What was the question? What businesses will it impact in a bad way or a good way?
Well, it says in danger. What
in danger?
Is it?
Well, accountants, insurance, banking, all the things that need lots of big thinking. The AI will just take all of that sweat out of it. So they're in danger. I think the things that will stay in will be all of your service industries where it's manpower and it's face-to-face. I think everything to do with entertainment will stay in because people want to see. I mean, as I just said that, there's the bloody ABBA thing, isn't there? It's a completely digital thing that's been made up and helped him. But I think people will still want to experience a night out, a show. So all of those businesses will do well. Leisure will do well. Plumbing will do well. Mechanics will do well. For all of those service industries will do well. You're in this field. You run a hedge fund that's backing companies that are in AI. You've probably got more knowledge than I have.
Yeah, but I mean you're right on the.
You can't do that to me and just have the pause. Yeah, and then pause. We'll do it again. So you probably know a bit more about AI than I. So what do you think is going to be impacted or not by AI?
Well, listen, you're right. All sorts is going to be. I mean, danger is an interesting word, isn't it? Because danger suggests that those businesses are wildly in jeopardy because of the impact of AI. But there's a stage before that where those businesses are going to be much more efficient and much more profitable because of the impact of AI. So solicitors is a good example. Solicitors firms, rather than having, and you see that the numbers have gone down in recruitment of of kind of trainee solicitors over the last year or so. Normally they're plucking them out of universities, and those numbers have been reduced because now a lot of that legwork is able to be done by AI. So now some senior partners with some junior partners and some AI is able to do the same amount of work as more heads needed to do in the past. So now they're temporarily more efficient and more profitable. So there's this entirely human business. There's this hybrid where you've got humans and AI working together in perfect harmony, but then eventually AI won't even need the humans. That's where the danger is.
Well, I think, Mark, that when I speak to other business owners, they haven't really got it in their sights that they need to be looking more into the future of how that will impact in a good way, and in some businesses in a bad way. I feel there's a bit of a sleepwalking thing going on, that AI is galloping pace here at 1 billion miles an hour like it would, but the actual people that are going to get affected by it are still just jogging along quietly. I think that feels a bit weird and a bit scary.
Yeah, but it's always been the case that most businesses rarely use the systems, the processes, the software that makes them as good as they could be.
Yeah.
We use post-it notes, as we always have.
Yeah.
And we use Excel. We've actually got this one machine in the office that runs that program, because it doesn't run on anything more modern than that. And they get stuck on a system that they've had for years and years and years, rather than going, right, is there a better way of doing it?
But that what you're describing is usually from an older business owner, wouldn't you say? I mean, they're clunky, and they're just not doing the innovation. They're going to be in the evaporation because they're not stepping forward.
I think that's every business. Very, very few businesses.
What, comfort? You think they just get into that comfort factor?
Yeah. And it works.
Yeah.
So why change it?
Yeah.
It works, but it works, and it's costing me 8 hours a week to do it that way. Whereas there's another way of doing it that takes 8 minutes.
Yeah.
But I haven't got the 3 days of solid thinking and checking and building time to remove the 8 hours. So I keep on bumbling through with the 8 hours, and you build inefficiencies in your business. Yeah. It's quicker to put a little bit of sticky tape on it than it is to rebuild it. But the businesses that don't put the time into understanding how AI can benefit their companies and how AI can make them much more efficient are going to be hugely overtaken, rapidly overtaken by the companies that take the time to understand exactly what's available beyond, I've got ChatGPT and ChatGPT writes some stuff for me.
Yeah, and that's just one tiny part of it, isn't it? I mean, I think that nobody likes change, period. And then this is just more change that they're having to cope with. And it's quite a bit of change, because it might involve signing up for new stuff that they're not really sure whether that's the right price point at this early stage. It might get cheaper later. Understanding that they've got to go through a bit of a learning curve or train in-house for them to be going on courses, and they're taking them away from their day-to-day stuff where they're actually making the company money. And this would be not making the company money in the short term, but in the long term it would be for bigger and better change. I think that's where, for the last, say, 8 years, we've had this morning of trudgery, doom and gloom of stuff that we have to get done for the businesses, and then lunchtime, then after 2 o'clock we try at least 3 days a week to just go on creativity. And creativity will be new projects, new ideas, new anything that we can think of that isn't to do with the day-to-day running of the companies, that we then go on to what we're going to look at in that later part of the day to then benefit us farming wise going into the future. When I use the word farming, the farmer will create ditches that will last for 20 years. He creates storage barns that will last for 60 years. And that's long-term thinking for your business. And that analogy is really what you've got to do with AI. You've got to embrace it and go and find what it's going to help you with and how it's going to help you into the long term. I think that's the key to it.
Well, long term is always very, very difficult.
Yeah.
In farming, you know that you're going to need storage, and you've needed storage for hundreds of years. You're going to need storage for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
It's easy to do that. With AI, it is rather more difficult because the speed of AI moving into almost every single industry is going to shock people.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be able to make those long-term plans. Sometimes they're just going to be wiped out in an instant.
Because it was interesting what you said earlier, what you were saying, Mark, about the students. They would come in and pick them up out of the universities. You know, on education, with the government putting the strategy in there, what is going on? They're taking this 6-year-old and grooming him or her for what into the future? Even get back to the 15-year-old now. Are they going to university? For what? You know, is there anything at the end of that university course? I mean, that is so frightening.
Yeah, in this country, we've got like a Victorian education system that gets people fully prepared for a life of employment and perhaps working in factories or on manufacturing lines, and that has not been fit for purpose for decades and decades. And now it's even more acute, where children are not allowed to use AI because that's cheating.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit like the lie that I was told when I was at school, which was, of course, you can't use a calculator, you need to work it out in your head because you're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket. That's a lie.
Yeah.
I have always got a calculator in my pocket.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with AI. I recognise that it's not one way or the other. It's not a case of you shouldn't ever work out, you shouldn't ever know, that you don't need to know how to work stuff out in your head or how to think for yourself. I understand the importance of that. But I also understand the importance of being prepared for the real world. And when children move into employment, whether that's a job or running their own business, they will have the advantages of AI, but they will have had no training in how to use those things. So they won't know where to start. And if we as a country want to move forwards and use the natural advantages that we've got, i.e. we've got a very good education system that teaches children for long periods of time, we need to make sure we're teaching them the right stuff.
Yeah.
So that when they come out, they've got the advantages that they should have.
But that's been an old chestnut, hasn't it, of criticism. You know, that the curriculum hasn't changed for the last 50 years. And, you know, was it ever fit for purpose when it was first hatched out to where we are today? Is they don't teach problem solving. They definitely don't teach entrepreneurship, of being a solo person that can get on. It was always about you always having a job. What was your job choices? I remember going for going for this guy that was going to show me where I could get a job. Well, that isn't necessarily what happens. There are other ways to make money. I take my two girls at the moment. 2 of them are working on putting social media up for millenniums. So the millenniums make the content, they send them to my young girls, and they then work anywhere in the world and put that and cut it and splice it and put it up for them, because they don't know how to, and they're quite willing to pay that savvy young person to do it for them. And then Christy, Jane, a teacher, teaching in a private school, two different subjects. I don't think that will change. I still think you'll have that interaction of teaching, as much as we see these online teaching courses, but there's nothing like proper stewardship of something face-to-face in a classroom, camaraderie with others. I think that will still be around. And then I'll do all my children for a minute. Then I go, my eldest son is doing civil engineering. He'll always be employed because it's all mud and bullets and ditches and levels and tarmac and everything else concrete. And then young Edward's 13. That's the problem. What will Edward be when he is outside of education? Who knows? I mean, that is the unknown fact. What will the job market even look like for that child?
No one knows.
No. So it is scary, isn't it? So 13, 14, 15, 16, another 6 years, 7 years. It is scary. Yeah. Team, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to take a moment to let you know about Baddow Park Mastermind. I have created a mastermind for high-level entrepreneurs. There's only 16 spaces and we've only got a few left. If you often find you're the biggest fish in the pond at other masterminds, click the link in the pod description, because this might be just for you. Now, back to the pod. So I think that really puts AI not to bed. I think it is scary, Mark. Very, very scary.
It's exciting.
Yeah, okay. Scary, exciting, exhilarating. Yeah. I can't think of any other words because I wasn't there that day. They were doing the big words.
They were doing the words?
No.
No.
Let's get another question. You go. The Goblet of Doom.
Of Doom? I don't think we've called it the Goblet of Doom, James.
What are we calling it? The Goblet of what?
Questions.
The Goblet of Questions. It's a bit weak, isn't it?
Sorry.
The Goblet of Questions.
Well, you need to ask your audience. You need to say, what you come up with a name.
Yes, that is it. Come up with a better name of the dog.
The Doblet.
Come up with a better name than the Goblet of Questions.
You're putting a prize up for the best
Yes.
name?
Yes, we're putting big prize.
500?
500 logs, yeah.
500 logs. Oh, hey,
To be delivered in the local area, just make that quite
we're coming
clear.
into winter, so that makes a lot of sense. I've got the question. The question is, what do you consider your biggest advantage as an entrepreneur?
I think but being able to talk to anybody, anywhere, and having those social skills, and those social skills come from way back, from when you had to be a bit laughy, jokey, clowny to exist at school, and then when you came out of school, you used the same skill set of avoiding having to read and write anything because of the dyslexia. So you became a socialite, smiley person because you had to do it to survive at school, and then you used the same skills to get people to tell you stuff, so you didn't have to read stuff. So you'd always want people to do stuff for you. I think that's it. The superpower is that being hampered with the reading and writing thing allowed me to exercise other skills like getting people to do stuff for me or tell me stuff. So you short-circuited how to learn.
Yeah, it hasn't really been a big hamper for you, has it?
No,
No,
it hasn't. It's been an advantage.
you've rewired.
Yeah. And I really did, Mark, turn it off. I think, if you locked me in a room for a year, you could teach me to read if that's the only thing I had to do. But it was actually hampering the speed I could do stuff, was to bother to try and read it. Listen, if I'm stuck on a desert island and I need to start the generator and there is a manual of how to start the generator, I will read the manual and get the generator started. But it's slow and clunky and frustrating. So to turn that button off means that I can then move at high speed by literally just asking everybody to tell me what's going on, how to learn how to do it and move forward. What about yourself, if you ask yourself that question?
I think that my biggest advantage as an entrepreneur, I mean, I've got a lot less entrepreneurial experience than you have. I've been running businesses for a lot less time. So, and that's important because there are always lessons in business. And when you've only been running business for a relatively short period of time, there are a few lessons to learn. So I was an employee as recent as 12 years ago.
Right.
So at that point, I picked up some entrepreneurial information, but I'd never actually run my own business. So in 12 years, that's the net sum of my entrepreneurial business owner experience. Mistakes made, lessons learned, etc. So I would say that my biggest advantage has always been my ability to take on information. So to learn from other people, or maybe that's other people in conversations like this, or just over dinner from other entrepreneurs and business owners, events, roundtable conversations, masterminds, big events when someone's up on stage, from books, now from podcasts, and I can very effectively absorb and assimilate that information and take the lessons from it. So I can take other people's entrepreneurial experience, their business mistakes, and turn those around and take the lessons from them, and then become actually quite an effective consultant or advisor in somebody's business using experience gleaned and gained from other people's businesses.
I think that going back to those early days of standing in the corner of my parents' pub, listening to the business owners having their little chats of those early drinks, you know, from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the evening, and they're telling you all the stories about what's going on in their world and their different companies. And you would take nuggets of stuff, but you wouldn't necessarily want to be them and do it their way. You know, somebody might be quite aggressive in business, somebody might just be very lazy in business. Well, the different ways of doing it. And I soon learned that it was about, you know, taking little bits of glitter from things and making it your own way forward, and you using your style, for a better way, to get on. And that style ended up being, you know, I had a great partner. He taught me lots, but he was very not honest and moralistic. He was very brutal. He wasn't very in tune with the new way of doing things. And that was the best lesson, because I knew I didn't want to be like him. But I could take some of the stuff from what he was doing, learning about, he was like a barrister in planning, and I could grab all that. But it made it quite clear that I didn't want to be like him, but I could take the information from him. So I think you're right. It's how you disseminate those bits and pieces. But that's really because your monitor never switches off. It doesn't matter where we are. I'm sitting there on a beach watching an ice cream truck on tracks go along the beach, and I'm trying to do the maths. How many trucks you got? What's it cost to do it? Does you have to pay to get on the beach? Does the ice cream? You know, your monitor is constantly on, trying to understand how things work in modelling. I think modelling is something that, you know, that last 20 years, how to tweak the model and how to just make small gains turn into very big different balance sheets, and sometimes that takes a helicopter view of your own business. Sometimes I'm very good at doing it on other people's businesses, but sometimes you have to step out of your own business, and that's why I always talk about going out, away from your environment. Have your contemplation weekends, whatever you're going to do, and think about it, because that forward thinking will get you there, but it will get you there with more focus away from the day-to-day of the business. I've gone off piece there a bit, but it kind of joins up to what we're talking about.
Yeah, and you talked about ice cream, which is where you lost me. I was thinking,
I got lost in ice cream, yeah.
I could
Everybody
have
loves
an
an ice cream.
Yeah.
I was just saying, wherever you are, even if you're away on holiday, you look at things and your business mind just tracks into it, doesn't it? It starts trying to work out the maths. Doesn't it?
All the time.
Do you do that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, good. That's all right. I thought I was just.
You either like, I don't know how they're scraping a living together here, yes, or right. Crikey,
yeah,
they're making some money.
Yeah. And commonly, even with clients that you and I get, we look at it and we go, "Yeah, got a great job. It ain't never going to scale, and you need to either change everything and get out, or you need to stay in there and just have a great job." And if they're passionate. Some people are saying, oh yeah, well, if you follow your passion, you never work a day in your life. That's crap. Because if your passion is something that doesn't work on scale, then you've just got a passionate job, because it will never work outside of that scale, you know?
Yeah, crosswords.
Yes.
Difficult to monetize, isn't it?
Yeah, very good. That was kind of like a joke, but not really much of a joke.
Well, but we can add the canned laughter on, can't we, Ollie?
Yeah.
Just add, and then honestly, it's going to bring the house down. That.
Yeah.
You're going to love it. Should we move on to the next question?
Yeah. Should we do another question? Let me get one out of here. Right. There we go. Try that one for size.
Thank you. What advice do you wish that you'd ignored early on, and why?
What advice do I wish I'd ignored?
I know the answer to this.
Oh, go.
And it's both of my parents were teachers, so they were hugely into academia, and academia, like getting the right grades, was absolutely the most important thing for me as a child, and I fell for it. I believed that it was true.
Because that was the environment you were in. Yeah.
That was it. Yeah. Honestly, I believed that it was true. So I really actually put quite a lot of work in for my GCSEs, because if I didn't get A's, then that was it. I was unemployable. I'd be a dustbin man.
Yeah.
Honestly, and you listen at that age, or I did, and I honestly thought that was it.
They said that. Yeah. They did say, and you will end up doing the bins.
You'll be doing the bins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was the threat.
And so I did. I knuckled down, because I didn't want to be on bins. So it wasn't for me. I decided that. But then, and then I between then and A levels, I started to think, well, hang on, I don't know if this is actually true or not, but I still got decent grades at A level. And then I had to go to university. And that's probably the advice. It's weird, isn't it? Because it wasn't really positioned as advice. It was this is the pathway for you, son, and there were no other options. So it wasn't really advice. It wasn't really that I could opt out of it. I wasn't an adult like I am now, some days, that can just push back and go, no. That was genuinely what my parents thought was the best thing for me to do. Go to university. That was the only pathway that they had. Good grades at this, good grades at that. And not just any university, had to be a red brick university. Short list of approved universities that I could go to. And not for one of these modern courses, not for one of these joke of a courses. Had to be a proper course at a proper university. So I ended up doing all of that. And subsequently wasted 5 years of my life doing A-levels and going to university when I could have been doing something useful.
Yeah. I think the environment thing is, where do you get your advice from? And I think, does your brother-in-law really want you to succeed? Will you outshine your father so he doesn't want you to take too much risk? Your mother's just horribly worried that you'll just end up destitute on the street and do nothing. So anything we do as entrepreneurs feels risky, or it feels new and exciting, but to others it feels scary. So your community and your local environment isn't a great place to be to hatch your entrepreneurial desires out and get feedback. I think that they're always stifled in that area. The only person that really backed me was my mum, and I think the only reason Mum did that was because she just knew he has to do something, and it can't be anything. He won't even make White Van Man because he can't read the addresses. So whatever he tries, it will be better than something. So she did back me, but I think the worst bit of advice was work hard, son. And hard, I only really learned how to work smart into my late 30s. I'd worked really hard, and this isn't a word, by the way, but I'd harded, and I know one could work harder than me, and that got me wealth and experience and scars, but not smart. It was only when I started reading books, Brian Tracy and Napoleon Hill and stuff, that I really started working that I need to be smart and start having management. And it was kind of me being the head focus of the team, and I needed to start having middle management. It was only then that advice was, that hard work was probably the bit that if I'd learnt that earlier, it would have made a big difference to me. Did
you listen to Napoleon Hill on tape? Is that how you took that in?
It was a record that had then been put on a CD. He created a record first. It was a disc, like an actual record. He played a record player, and then they'd put that on CDs. Used to send off and get a box of 6 and listen to them in order. Yeah, it's great. I loved it. I like Brian Tracy. Brian Tracy was good.
Yeah,
I like Brian Tracy. Yeah, they were good.
What did you learn from Napoleon Hill?
That it was a dictatorship of entrepreneurship that he kind of sold you, and I liked it. It was quite rigid and strict, but it talked about you. It talked about your brain cells, actually. And I always thought, well, obviously I've got damaged brain cells because I can't read or write and stuff, so something's gone wrong. But he talked about everybody having the same amount of brain cells, but it was to do with their choices of what they did with their brain cells. So I then came to the conclusion that I have got the same brain cells as other people, but I've been thinking with them wrong. So I need to change my thinking, and that's what he really taught me.
It's Napoleon Hill that came up with the term mastermind.
Did it? Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Had you done that type of, had you got into that reading at what age?
Oh, Napoleon Hill, probably not till 27.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And who did you like? I mean, you read him, it's quite long, but who did you like? Was there a person that you liked the digestion of stuff from?
Well, yeah, at that age, it was Dan Kennedy.
Dan Kennedy, yeah.
Learned a lot from Dan. Went over to the States a lot, went to a lot of Dan's events,
right.
Learnt bigger picture stuff from Dan on entrepreneurship, on leadership, on strategy, on your life, on the possibilities, and then more tactical stuff from Bill Glazer, who was a copywriter,
yeah.
And a really, really brilliant marketer. And the combination of those two, it was an exciting time.
I went out to America to take NLP practitioner's course with Richard Bandler, and he was kind of the founder of the thing, and he'd written a book called Magic and stuff like that. And I went out and did it with him, and it was an eye-opener to the Americanized learning machine of all of these people and the books and everything else. And it kind of did change my whole attitude to how and why I was doing it. Because there was I had plenty of money and a great lifestyle, but it was how I changed from being the guy with a company and 4 holidays a year and a flashy car to actually doing it because I wanted the creativity of making a business and making a team and creating a stability of wealth behind me in the format of property or PI or whatever it might be. But that was a real different change than just working hard. You have to work hard. It just goes with the territory. But that was the main focus, was just to be a hard worker, then everything will come to you. And it was this working smart. So that's kind of my answer to that question.
What was the flashiest car you ever had?
The flashiest car I ever had, when I sold the business the first time, I didn't pay tax on the money,
yeah.
£660,000. So I didn't pay the tax. Then they knocked on the door about 12 months later, and I didn't have any money to pay them. And I bought a Porsche, and I just didn't insure it, but it got delivered, so I just whizzed out in it quickly. And the first time I drove it, I wrapped it around a tree.
No, you didn't?
Yeah, I did, yeah. And it was a write-off. It was a bent chassis and everything.
No.
And I just had to go, okay, where's that pickup I left in the yard? Go back to the pickup, yeah. And it was like, big scar in the back. Yeah. It was like 60 grand, just gone like that. Anyway, there you go. What can you do?
Unbelievable.
And now, whenever you sell anything, from that one moment then, whenever I sell anything, before we even sell it, I want to know, how does the tax work? I even look at, when we're starting a new business, when we are going to exit in 10 years, what will the tax be? And you can't sometimes do that because the government are changing taxes, but it's the number one question you need to ask yourself. And that was the furthest removed question. And the other thing is, if we do anything with anything that goes on the road, we insure it, like big time. So the scar lives strong in my back, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I like that, it's a good story.
Ollie, have we got time for one more question? One more question. Go, Mark. Let's have one more question from the goblet of entrepreneurs' questions.
What is the worst business decision that you have ever made?
What was the worst decision? The worst decision of my life was not to own property earlier in my life. And I had the opportunity to own my yard and everything else. And my understanding of how you bought things was you had all the money and then you went and bought stuff. And that isn't the case. You go and find the thing to buy, then you work out how you get the money to do it. And I was hampered with that mindset of thinking that you had to have money or a big chunk of it first. And I should have done that earlier. Wish I'd done that earlier.
Leverage to create assets.
Yeah. Because it gave you a backbone of stability, that it gave you that broad foundation at the bottom of the pyramid that you could lean on, rely on, and it was always there. It was always overnight while you're asleep in bed, going up in value, with good covenants and stuff. When you're renting the stuff out, you got stability on Red Book valuations. It was, I wish I'd really done more and more of that earlier. I mean, yours has got to be, I wish you were in entrepreneurship earlier than you were. Not putting words in your mouth.
No, you have.
Yes.
I don't know. I suspect that mine probably is because the marketing business that I ran for a very long time, Ideal Result, when that came to an end, that was a big deal for me. And I think looking back, there's things that I could have done that would have changed the outcome of that for me. I had too much dependency on a small number of people, and perhaps sometimes it feels scary to scale something, but then the bigger something is, the harder it is for one person or a couple of people to kind of take it down. If you create significant dependency, And I've talked a lot over the years about how the worst number in marketing is one. To have a dependency on one thing, if you've got one point of failure, then that can be devastating. And in the business, I had got a lot of power controlled by a small number of people, and in the end, it was that reliance that led that business to end.
And that, Mark, you know, you have spoke about this to me privately and on pods and other people's pods about it. That still haunts you a little bit now, or have you wiped your mouth and next chapter, please?
Well, yeah, I mean, I am writing the next chapter, and that's exciting. But you always take the lessons, and the lesson from that is that ended, and I didn't want it to. So that my hand was forced there. And looking back, there are things that I could have done to not be in that situation. And if I was in that situation again, that would not be something that could happen to me so easily.
You would allow that to go down.
And if I was advising somebody else, I've got the benefit of that lesson and that situation to advise them on.
I think that those, you know, those haunting scars like that are. You have to get them into their boxes, that you've got to learn the lesson from it and wipe your mouth all at the same time and move on, and not let them hamper what decisions you might make and be hesitant towards it, as long as you're not doing it in the format that leaves that gate half open that it could happen to you ever again. I think that's the real essence of it. You know, and I talked earlier about going in with partners and stuff like that. It is very, very scary because things change in those partnerships. I always remember my partner saying to me, we need to get this right because, you know, when the millions come, the arguments will go strong. And never a better thing did he ever say there. And even though he said it and it happened, it still went bloody wrong. You know, it still ended up in bitter arguments. And we were very close friends, and now we're not very close friends at all. And there is still millions and millions of pounds in that portfolio left on the table because there's 50-50 partnerships in it, and both parties are just not talking to one another. Waste of time, complete waste of time. Difficult, but big scar, big lesson. And when I speak to companies and people giving shares away like confetti and we'll do it 50-50. No, never do it 50-50. It is the worst thing. You need to understand mechanics of companies, articles and memorandums, you know, paragraphing to how companies will dissolve or not dissolve. All of that needs to be written with good quality contractors in the form of solicitors and lawyers and accountants that get that thing right. But you think, well, that's not necessary because the company's only worth £2.50. But no, in your vision, it's worth 50 million quid. You need to get it right here at the base. And that's difficult for people to take that on. That brings us back to, that's why you should go and learn how to do it at masterminds, where people can be all things to create your wealth going into the future. Yes, everybody. Anything else on this question?
No. I think we're wrapped, aren't we?
I think we're done. If you've got questions that you would like us to ask each other, or even something that you'd like to make it awkward for us, whatever you want to do, put them through, message through to Ollie, and let's see if we can get them on the pod. If you've enjoyed the episode, make sure you hit those buttons and bells, and make sure you do the subscribe and give us a comment. Let us know what you think of the pods and how we're getting on and how we're delivering the message of entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs conversation. And if I'm lucky, I'll see you on the next one.